Okay, we're all set up with our flash, our strobe, the camera, the computer, and our model, our mannequin. Now what we need to do is get the camera to talk to the flash. And a lot of systems have built-in radios, but we always have external radios. And there are a lot of settings on these, but the big key here is just to make sure that the one that's on the camera is set to transmit, like talk out, and the one that's on the strobe is set to receive. These are both set to do both, so they'll do things at the same time. And make sure they're on the same channel, and then you're good to go. It's as simple as that. Put the radio on the camera, I can put it in the hot shoe, or I could, there's a bunch of ports here I can put it in. And then the receiving radio goes into a port. Okay. What I need to do is I'm going to bring this, elevate the strobe to a reasonable height. I do one test fire to make sure everything works. Nope, didn't work. I got to turn the strobe on. There we go, now it works. So, I want to talk about how I set this up. I brought the camera's aperture, made it small enough, down to f8, and made the shutter speed, what's my shutter speed? At 1/100th of a second. I could actually speed that up a little bit. I'm going to go 1/60th of a second. And that way, if I turn the strobe off, the camera's now not going to fire slow enough to capture the light by these bare bulbs that I have in the basement. So I fire. So nothing's registering on the screen. It's not capturing enough light. But if I turn the flash on, take a shot, now it's throwing enough light. So we'll see in that picture it has it's a very harsh shadow, but it's a bare bulb, so it's throwing light everywhere. So even though there's a hard shadow, the face doesn't look that bad. First modifier I'll use is this half round. I'll take a shot. It's going to diminish the light a little bit, but it's still going to be spread out. Okay, the shadow starts to soften up a little bit, but there's still light everywhere. It's still going, this is a hemisphere, so it's light's going that way, that way, that way, that way. If we want to give the light a little bit of direction, we use a reflector, so it's not going to be able to go out this way, it has to go forward. Okay, the light threw all that light way far forward, so this is greatly overexposed. I'm making the camera faster and making the aperture smaller. Still crazy bright. Okay, so what that means is I don't have to have the strobe turned up as bright, so I'm going to turn it down. Nice. Still throwing a lot of light. Now I'm going to make the aperture smaller. There we go. So because of this modifier, light didn't spill out to the sides, it got focused, it got thrown forward. If I switch modifiers, this one is going to focus it down even more and throw more light in a column. Not a perfect column, but it's not spread out everywhere. Let's see what that does. Yep, making it more focused. We see hot spots on the model's forehead. I should bring it down to a third stop, see what that does. All right, that's better. Let's see, more of our light's going forward, less of it is spreading out. I'm going to use this guy just with a piece of diffusion. This is plastic diffusion, so it should soften the light up. It's still throwing the light in the same direction, but it's just going to be a softer, more even light because it has this piece of plastic diffusion. Okay, it softened it up a little bit, not by a lot. Slightly better quality. I actually like this a little better. Not a huge difference between these two, but enough to think about. Now, from what I just had on to what I have now in my hand it's the same modifier, just has a grid. So this grid prevents light that bounces on the inside of this modifier, prevents it from sneaking out that way. So it makes things more directional. So this light is going to really narrow down and you're going to see the fall off around our mannequin. It's going to get dark really quickly, but still be focused on the mannequin. Yeah, so there's a lot of fall off. There's a lot. You know, it's only directing light at the model. It's getting more and more focused. With that grid, I can put a piece of diffusion on top of the grid. So not only is it really narrow beam of light, it's a little bit softer, which is going to be more pleasing to, especially when you're taking pictures of people. And the shadow might get a little softer. It's a little darker. Let's see. Yeah, that was a little darker. I don't want to turn it up much, but I like that result. If you really want to narrow things down, you can just throw this long tube over the flash tube, and it's just going to make this point of light. So it's like this searchlight. Another version of this is a different kind of snoot, so the light's going to get choked down and go through this grid. Remember, the grid keeps it from bouncing out from the opposite side. It's not something you're necessarily going to use on a person. But it's nice to have if you just need a little spot of light somewhere. I'm going to turn this up a stop. I'm going to turn the flash up a stop. So I've doubled the power. There we go. I'm going to bring it back down. Actually, I can go one more. See what it does. So it's very specific where the light's going with this one. Now, one of the things that gives us a nice spread, this is a small version of one, but it's called a beauty dish. And a lot of times it's used in this position because it's going to have a nice spread of light and it's low enough that it's lighting up the eyes. But this deflector right here in the middle make sure there's not the hot spot, that bright spot of the bulb. Okay, so we can have a nice big light area. Let's see what that does. That's kind of nice. We can put a piece of diffusion over it. See if we can soften it up a little more. Yeah, that's pretty soft. I would actually have to bring the light up a little bit because that diffusion takes 3/4 or half a stop out of it, or a full stop actually. There. Nice. One of the other modifiers for our beauty dish is a grid. Actually, let me see if this example will work. Okay, so the grid takes some light out, but look, if I turn the grid, you can't see down. If I turn the grid, you can't see up or left or right. So that makes it really hard for light to escape out the side. So again, it's going to give it some direction. I apply that to the beauty dish. Let's make sure we're focused. We are. Okay. So that gave that more direction. See, if you see on the left, it didn't spill to the left side of the model. It just stayed on the model. Now I can combine that with the piece of diffusion and get something really, really directional, so that I've cut out the background on the sides because I'm not lighting anything but my model. And by putting that, and that's what the grid did, by putting that sock on there, that diffusion, it softens everything up. Probably gonna have to turn the yep, I'm gonna have to turn the power up. Every time I put an extra modifier on, it takes power, or it takes light away. I'm turning it up to stop. That's not bad. I will go up another stop. Okay, I must be maxed out. Yeah, I'm maxed out. So, I'm maxed out on the light, so what I can do is bring my aperture down. So open up the aperture in one stop, which is 3 clicks. One stop is letting twice as much light in. Yeah, that's pretty nice. And let's see if I can get a good exposure. I'm going to get 2/3 of the stop just to get more exposure. I'm making the aperture larger so more light can come in. Nice. Slow the shutter speed down, so the shutter is going to be open for longer so more light can come in. Okay, that's a pretty good shot. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 modifiers with a couple combinations of each modifier. So that's a lot to wrap your head around, and the only way to learn this stuff is just by doing it, by repetition. But hopefully that's a good introduction to you. And the school has all of this stuff, or well, has these strobes and power packs and these modifiers.